everybody.
Hi, friends. Well, from wintertime in Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show today, Dan, we're going to be talking about loss and grief.
Yeah. And how that's not fun.
That's not fun, but it's like real.
Oh, that's when shit is the realest. You don't get to be any realer than when you're grieving a loss.
So we're adding to the cheer of this holiday season.
Yeah.
With a talk about, something kind of sad.
Yeah,
We'll get to that.
so let that be a trigger warning if you need to not think about those things. But I think we'll have a gentle approach.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, Dan, I just referenced this holiday season, and that phrasing would probably piss some people off. This isn't the holiday season. This is the Christmas season. God damn it!
Tell that to a Jew. Do you like how I said that?
That was really good.
Felt like I really dug into it.
Well, apparently, Europe has declared war on Christmas. And
What?
And the Pope is having none of it.
Oh.
Recently, he was traveling on his papal plane, which sounds a lot more exciting than it really is.
Are you kidding me? I would kill to be on that plane.
Yeah?
I would love to be on that plane.
Oh, that's got to be a weird, weird experience.
Somebody get me that gig.
Do they have nuns as the flight attendants? Like, how does this? How does this work?
You went and genderized it. No, it's cardinals serving you your Coca-Cola. I would like a ginger ale, please. In nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
The snacks are terrible, though.
They are
Dry wafers.
It's a communion wafer for your snack. You do get some wine,
Get a
but
little
it's
package, and it just has two little wafers. And there's a snack box you can order.
your flight attendant will be coming through the cabin with your host.
Oh no!
In Europe, in the UK, don't they call them air hostesses and air hosts? Anyway, go on.
Okay.
Tell the story.
Anyway, apparently the EU has taken some efforts to be a little more inclusive, because it's a multi-nation block of countries, right?
Yeah, and
that have different local cultures, and they also recognize most of those places are predominantly Christian, right? But
Sure.
nonetheless, there are other people who reside in Europe, not just
much to the
people
chagrin of the Catholic Church.
Yeah, exactly.
There are non-Catholic,
and non-Christians
people
residing in Europe. And so how dare the European Union issue guidelines on inclusive language that the European Union should be using? Apparently this was this advisory or whatnot was issued and then retracted after public outcry. It included some phrasing like human-induced instead of man-made. I'm assuming that's in reference to maybe climate change.
Yeah,
or
sure.
something. And also with instructions to avoid reference to Christmas during the holiday season.
Since it's not the only holiday that's being celebrated.
That's usually the take on the holiday season.
Literally, the way the war on Christmas works is somebody on our side of things goes, hey, let's just make it okay to include everybody.
Yeah.
And then the Christians go, you hate Christians!
I know.
This is bigotry!
Yeah. Well, and the Pope is on board.
Oh, my God.
He says, trying to ban such Christmas terms amounted to, quote, a fad, watered down secularism. It is something that throughout history has not worked. In history, many dictatorships have tried to do these things.
Oh, it's a dictatorship thing. Okay.
I'm thinking of Napoleon, the Nazi dictatorship, the communist one. Now the communist one.
The communist one.
Which one?
The one.
The one.
Frank, the one.
You mean The one that you dare not mention its name? Like, what the hell? He said that...
I do like the idea of Lenin as Voldemort. That's...
the Pope said that while he believed the EU was, quote, necessary, which sounds so ridiculous. I mean, it is necessary.
I mean, it's a necessary evil.
It should not try to erase the different identities of countries within the bloc.
Oh my God, this is what it's infuriating. That the Pope is on this train, because that is some Tucker Carlson bullshit right there.
Yeah.
Because look, he knows full well no one is banning the word Christmas.
No.
Nobody's doing anything remotely like that. They're just saying, look, as a government,
Exactly.
maybe use the terms holiday season or anything that isn't just specific to one fucking religion.
So that minority groups feel like they are
represented,
fully acknowledged and represented by their government.
Right. Because the government's job isn't anything to do with religion.
Right.
Guess whose job that is, Mr. Pope? That's your job. You do the Christmas things and let the government do governing. You son of a bitch.
Well, the Secretary of State of the Vatican, a certain cardinal by the name of Pietro Parolin, he essentially the Secretary of State's like, it's almost a de facto prime minister type position. It's a very high ranking position at the Vatican.
Right.
He condemned any attempt to cancel our roots, the Christian dimension of our Europe, especially with regard to Christian festivals. We know that Europe owes its existence and its identity to many influences, but we certainly cannot forget the one, or that one of the main influences, if not the main one, was Christianity itself, the cardinal said.
Yeah. Getting mighty close to fascist talk right there.
Isn't that crazy?
Getting mighty close to Christian nationalism there.
But no, the EU is a dictatorship, or at least can be compared to these other how do you even put the EU as, like, how do you say line them up next to Nazism and use those, like, how did
wow. I do not like that American pundit influence seems to have gotten all the way to the Vatican.
Oh, he's an avid Fox News watcher.
Clearly. He must be. Oh, my God. That's some ugly shit right there.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody calls the Pope on any of his bullshit. I don't know that that's true.
Think people do.
I think they do. Well, some of our listeners may be familiar with an HBO reality show called We're Here.
Okay.
No, I've never seen it. I actually intend to watch it. I've never seen the show. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen it?
I have not, no.
It is, apparently, my understanding of the show is it's basically sort of Tu Wong Fu meets Queer Eye. In the sense that some drag queens sort of truck around the America.
Okay, that's what it's called. Okay. I actually almost watched an episode. And then I was like, no.
Oh.
Because I don't like Queer Eye that much. So something that's based on the concept.
But it's more Tu Wong Fu-y, I think, which is to say, drag queens go around a country, find non-drag queens, kind of, regular.
That's hard. That's really hard to do.
Joe Schmoes.
You really have to travel around the country.
Where are you going to find one? I don't even know.
Queens.
But find ones that are willing to don the drag.
Okay.
And try it. Just try, a little drag performance.
Okay.
And in the process, they learn about what drag is, why drag queens do what they do, if there is such a why, if there is a reason behind it,
a singular reason.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. There's a plethora of reasons, and then maybe a little bit of tolerance is gained. Maybe a small community has some fun with it. This is the idea,
right?
Is my understanding. I have never seen the show.
Okay.
One such smallish town dude that they got to do this was a United Methodist pastor named Craig Duke.
Okay.
who decided, who has a queer daughter. His daughter came out as pansexual recently, and in an effort to, he's a pastor of a purportedly quite liberal congregation.
Okay.
So he thought, you know what? As a gesture of goodwill toward the LGBTQ community, and as a way of sort of engendering understanding and fostering a bit of fun, decided to go on the show and do a drag thing.
Right. Well, he's already used to dressing up in costumes and getting up on stage.
Exactly.
So he's like the perfect candidate.
He's halfway there. I mean, actually, you know what? I'll bet pastoring is drag a lot more than people think.
Oh, yeah. It's totally performative.
It's totally performative. You're putting on this persona that isn't like, come on. That's not really who you are most of the time. Like,
right.
And a lot of times it's backwards drag. It's like gay guys putting on a straight persona, or anywho. I mean, it is a kind of, you're right. It seems like a natural next step is what I'm saying. Anyway, he did it. He knew probably that there would be some backlash.
Sure.
He did not expect the backlash that he got. It was apparently overwhelming.
Really?
Now, he did get some support as well, but letters and emails pouring in on both sides, but the ones on the negative side, the amount of vitriol and the level of anger and hatred from his very quote-unquote open congregation even.
Oh, this is from the congregation.
I mean, from all sorts of places, but also from the congregation.
Wow.
It was apparently like just beyond anything he would have imagined, and he had to step down for a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Back away from the role of pastor, because he just felt like it was too much of a distraction. He couldn't even do what he was trying to do.
Oh my.
And then he lost his job.
Over a drag performance. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's not even something that he's saying he's taking up as a hobby. He
No,
did it one
no,
time
not at all.
As like I probably shouldn't refer to drag performance as a hobby, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's not. It's not his new lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly.
He did it once as a way of sort of reaching across to, as a way of embracing the LGBTQ community.
Which purportedly his congregation as a whole doesn't really have a problem with.
And his denomination apparently doesn't have a problem with.
Huh.
It was a form of allyship.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to have a problem with it. It was a bridge way too far for all of these people. And now the guy, the church is very kindly giving him a greatly reduced severance salary for a little bit, and they'll let him stay at the parish until February, him and his wife, and then you're out on your ass, buddy.
How was his drag performance?
I didn't see it, but now I really want to go see it.
Must have been really
I'll tell you what, though, the picture, he looks great.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, when you got pros doing you up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I hope it was really good. I mean, maybe there's probably a book deal in here somewhere, right? Like,
oh, I imagine so. I hope so.
There's something.
Apparently, he had a very big pink wig. He did, the makeup looks great. Mm-hmm. He apparently did a lip sync to Kesha.
Really?
Something about "Welcome to Church." I guess that's a Kesha song. I don't know.
I don't know that song.
I don't. You and I are not.
I'm a huge Kesha fan. I'm surprised I've missed it.
Yeah, it's actually shocking that we didn't both burst out into the song. We being probably the biggest Kesha fans, at least in Utah.
Oh, indeed. Oh, Dan, I've got another Pope story.
Oh, the Pope returns.
Oh,
we're getting back on the papal plane.
This one actually, the dateline says aboard the papal plane.
I knew it.
It's when he gives his best stuff.
He does.
He opens
literally
up. he's sort of freed of like all like the routine.
The curia isn't there looking over his shoulder.
He's not being handled in the same way.
Yeah.
And he walks to the back of the plane
And just
gets in front of the press and just
starts jabbering.
Lets it all hang out.
Yeah.
Well, this has to do with some comments that he made about a French bishop who had to resign.
Now that's a pastry, right? A French bishop? Is it
a French bishop resignation? Perhaps. No, he had to resign after having a sort of little scandal. Some reports came out about a relationship that he had with a woman. The bishop, he's now about 70 years old, I guess. And obviously, there's that old celibacy rule that says that he shouldn't be having any kind of intimate relationship.
Can you imagine having a job where, like, the most natural human thing in the world, which is just loving another person, is like not okay?
Yeah,
that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well, nonetheless, the Pope accepted the resignation of Paris Archbishop Michel Aupetit.
He was the Archbishop of Paris?
Mm-hmm.
That is not a small. That is not that is a high-ranking dude.
Mm-hmm.
That's an important dude.
He accepted the resignation not because he had sinned, but because the gossip about him had left him in a position where he could no longer govern the diocese.
What the fuck, dude? We're talking about France here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, where it seems to me like there's no one could ever be the Bishop of Paris and not have just gossip every which way.
The Pope said that sins of the flesh were certainly sins, but not as great as sins such as hatred and pride, and that the bishop had been the victim of an injustice.
Who said the bishop had been a victim of?
The Pope said that he'd been a victim of injustice.
But that's why
it was a failing against the sixth commandment. You shall not commit adultery.
Oh, yeah.
But not a total one. It was one of small caresses, a massage given to his secretary.
Oh, no, you ruined it. I was just hoping that it was just a nice little affair. But he was sexually harassing his secretary.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
he goes,
man.
That is what the accusation is. There is a sin there, but not the worst kind. So he's focused on only the physical act, not whether it was invited or welcomed. Or...
Yeah, he has it exactly backwards.
Yeah.
Literally, if they had had a consensual affair, that's not a sin.
Yeah.
But a man in power over a woman who then sexually harasses her against her will, guess what? That's a fucking far worse sin.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking dicks.
Yeah. He says that everyone was a sinner, including himself.
Yeah.
The bishop was condemned, but by whom? He asks. By public opinion, by gossip. He could no longer govern. I accepted the resignation of Aupetit, not on the altar of truth, but on the altar of hypocrisy.
How does that make any sense?
I've wrestled to try to figure this one out from his perspective. I'm like, what are you talking about?
What? Why? The sin's not the really big deal. The really big deal is how dare he have been talked about?
Yeah.
What? I think the Pope might be going senile.
Yeah.
You guys.
He's 84 years old now. And,
my God.
There are obviously plenty of 84-year-olds who are not senile.
Not this one.
The odds are.
Oh my God!
Are
what
when these
Pope? What are you doing? You've been cloistered too long. You gotta go meet some real people.
Yeah. The proof is in like his footwear. Like as soon as he stops wearing the simple slippers.
Yeah, exactly. Has he borrowed some Louis Vuitton from the other guy?
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Is Benedict still back there? Is he still alive? Hanging out in that nunnery or monastery?
As far as I know.
He's got a little apartment somewhere on the Vatican grounds?
I mean, I'm guessing he's never there. I'm guessing he is just gallivanting.
Oh, he seems like a gallivanter. If there ever was one.
No, he's probably just like holed up in a little room writing angry screeds. That's all he does. All right. I'm going to take us to California. In San Jose area specifically, where Campbell Union High School District has come under fire.
Oh, really?
Here's the deal. This is very look. There are very real problems in our country to do with systemic racial issues. Racism is cooked into the pancake of America. It is one of the main ingredients, and it is not easy to get out. It is built into every system that we have. That doesn't mean, and we all kind of participate in it. So, and we just need to come to terms with that. This is not critical race theory. This is just history that I'm talking.
Sounds a little bit like critical race theory.
Okay, first of all, everybody, critical race theory. Critical theory, if you can't define critical theory, you don't know what critical race theory is.
How dare you, Dan?
And if you do, and if you know what critical race theory is, you know that it's like a law school thing.
Right.
It's not a thing that's going to be in anybody's elementary school or high school.
I don't know. It seems to have trickled down somehow. It's made its way in, Dan.
Yeah. But the study and the question of how racism has been built into systems like school districts is important.
Absolutely.
And it is something that needs to be discussed, regardless of what the angry, Trumpites say about CRT or whatever. Anyway, the Campbell Union High School District in San Jose had a website that was just sort of resources for looking at systemic racism.
Okay.
It was a bunch of links to a bunch of different things.
Okay.
One of those links led to a Google Drive created in 2018 with 45 different documents in it. So this is how deep we are. One of the links on the page led to a thing with 45 different documents, and one of those documents, among a bunch of other suggestions, was the suggestion. This is a document called writing prompts on police brutality and racist violence.
Okay. All right.
So this is just a creative writing exercise.
Yeah.
To help you sort of process your feelings.
Yeah.
About a real problem in these United States, which is the racist propensity toward violence and brutality within the police. That is a thing that is a fact. If you haven't accepted that, do. Anyway, this is just writing prompts. And one of the writing prompts on this document that is one of 45 documents on this, that is one of many links.
Got it. Okay.
Said, was a writing prompt that said, people who are no longer with us, who you wish you could talk to. Oh no, blah blah blah. It said, what it says is, hexing people is an important way to get out anger and frustration. And it goes on to suggest that you make a list of people that you are angry or frustrated or hurt
Hexing?
about.
As in like casting a spell?
Kind of, yeah. Okay. And it says to write a poem to hex those people, to curse those people.
Okay.
It is a creative writing exercise.
Right. Is it saying that you're supposed to write it about a police officer?
Yes.
Okay.
If that police officer was violent or brutal in a way that was unnecessary, or you could include people like.
But that's explicitly what it's saying.
Yeah, it says. Quote, a list of specific people who have been agents of police terror or global brutality. This list can be wide-ranging, from small microaggressions to larger perpetrators, i.e., people who say all lives matter, to the police officers who arrest nonviolent protesters, to George Zimmerman.
Right. Okay. Got it.
So that's what they suggest. And then they suggest that you write a poem cursing them.
Okay. So who got fired?
Right. No, there was, of course, outrage because, of course, anything that smells liberal that a school puts out, because all the right-wing media wants in the world is something to be outraged about. That they don't want to have answers to any problems. They just want to create outrage.
Right. Well, so they're good at it.
And they're the best at it. So somebody combed through all of this stuff, found that one writing prompt on that one paper and that one link.
And what, sent it to Tucker Carlson?
And sent it to Spencer Lindquist, who's an intern at the conservative magazine The Federalist.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And, of course, they accused the district of teaching students how to put a curse on those who say all lives matter.
And, of course, in a world of magical thinking, hexes are demonic.
Yeah.
And they're actually calling forth. Oh, yeah. God.
So, obviously, I'm probably... I wouldn't doubt that Lindquist himself doesn't give a shit about hexes, doesn't think that there's anything here.
Oh, but he knows the connections.
But he smells blood in the water.
Yeah, exactly.
So he draws these lines and is like, see, the liberals are teaching our kids to be Satanists. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, witches are like, yeah, we don't fuck with that. You should take that more seriously. We definitely don't cast hexes just on microaggressors or whatever. Like, everybody's being dumb.
Oh golly, great.
Yeah. So on all sides, I'll be pretty clear about this. I don't believe that there are such things as hexes or spells. You can't cast. Go ahead and cast a spell on me. Hex me if you will. Yeah. I remain undaunted.
That's good, Dan.
And I think that this is obviously quite silly, but of course,
but it's so silly. But it has like real world consequences.
It has some real world consequences, which is that then these right wing ding dongs can stir up controversy, and we're in the middle of another version of the Satanic Panic. We are deep into the middle of this thing that ended up being very destructive to our society back in the 80s, and this is being incredibly destructive now.
Oh, it will be more destructive.
And it's going to get worse. Yeah. So just keep your antennae up for that, kids, because it's not good.
Yeah, the right has learned their lessons, and they've
learned all the wrong lessons.
Yeah. This will be bad. All right, well, I've got another school story, Dan. We're just like... We got like themes going today. It's amazing. This one having to do with COVID-19 and a teacher who submitted a religious exemption in order to, get out of things like being vaccinated and what have you. But this took me by surprise. Really? How far he wants this exemption to stretch. He and his wife, who's also a teacher in the school system, have been threatened with AWOL, absent without leave, and or termination for refusing to be tested for COVID-19. Their religious exemption should also get them out of being tested.
It is my right as a goddamn American to walk around infected or not infected and infecting others as I choose and as I please, and you may not say nothing to me about it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's actually the next paragraph.
I was reading that from the article.
So this ding dong, his name is Paul Murphy. He has a master's degree in intelligence studies from American Military University. So intelligence. Okay. I know. I had the same reaction.
It's still fun.
American Military University.
Yes. Okay. So he's into espionage and
that kind of stuff. Yeah. And it also makes him obviously an expert on like vaccines.
Oh, yeah.
And
you have
testing techniques such as PCR tests.
You have 10 years of virology to get that intelligence degree.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge part of
you got to be an epidemiologist just to get your foot in the door.
He provided the governor's office, the attorney general's office, I'm assuming that's the state attorney general, and the Commonwealth Healthcare Corp, and some legislators, the findings of a research he conducted regarding polymerase chain reaction or PCR tests for COVID-19. And he found that they're just flawed. Right.
I done me a research. Mm-hmm. It was on the YouTubes and the internet, and I found out it ain't right.
Yeah. There are paragraphs discussing what it is that he thinks he found. We don't need to get into that.
No.
All we need to know is that he has no competency whatsoever to be conducting a research on PCR tests and their accuracy and their false positivity rates and so forth and so on. He has no fucking background in it. And the fact people's inability to identify where their competencies are and where they are not makes me crazy.
Yeah.
Like people who think that because they're an expert in one field that they are therefore learned and broadly experts on anything that comes their way.
I got me an associate's degree. I'm a fucking man of letters is what I am.
Right. I mean, that's basically where people are coming from.
Yeah.
With this, like, you know, do your, what's the QAnon's thing? Do your research.
Yeah. They always say that.
Yeah.
Do your own research.
Do your own research.
Guess what? You're not qualified to do your own research.
You're literally not.
You do not know how to do your own research on this fact.
Clearly they do not. Because all they do is, I mean, with QAnon is they go and watch, like, videos that have been produced by other followers of QAnon.
And just so that you know, dear listener, Frank and I are also not qualified to do research on this stuff. It's not like we're not pointing fingers at anyone.
Yeah.
You have to be qualified to do this kind of research.
Right.
So unless you are a virologist or an epidemiologist or someone in a related field with a degree of expertise in that field,
right,
just believe those guys.
Yeah.
Those are the people you just believe, and you don't get to do any research, and you just have to believe them.
Exactly. Like we live in a time where your skill set for finding good information needs to be knowing where to go for good information.
Knowing where the experts are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because nobody can keep it all up in their head.
No.
Nobody can have all of the knowledge. This is not some bygone time where literally all the learning in the world existed in like 3 books.
And also,
so like,
not for nothing, but like that epidemiologist who's an expert in virology and all that stuff, that person has to yield to the expertise of climate scientists.
Well,
that person is not qualified to speak about another field that they are not an expert in.
My guess is the intricacies of PCR tests. A standard virologist probably isn't going to be fully up on all of that, right?
Yeah.
Or an epidemiologist. They're going to have a lot of knowledge about how the things work, but somebody who actually,
they're going to yield to the 4 or 5
people with PhDs who've studied and developed this technology. Right.
Okay.
And also, like, it's amazing. I was actually going to have my PhD husband, who works very closely to this stuff, explain to me what was wrong with what he says is wrong with it.
Right.
And then I was like, no, that's actually not the point here.
Yeah.
This is not a tit for tat rebuttal of his lunacy, and his lack of understanding. It's simply, he is not a trustworthy voice.
Yeah.
Period.
Even if he were right, don't take his word for it.
Right.
You just go to the people who, okay. I am calm. Serenity now. Here we go. I'm going to close us off by proving every now and then, Franklin, you and I get accused of picking only on Christians.
We do?
I have seen this accusation leveled once or twice.
We only dislike Christians.
Yeah.
I think we hold our punches for certain groups is the...
Something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Why don't I see you picking on these blah, blah, blah. And part of it is just because, as Uncle Mark on the How to Heretic has said, you sculpt with the clay you've got.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a lack of familiarity with other groups...
Well, and also, the problem child in our country is Christianity.
Sure.
Our country is like 70+% Christian, and they're the ones who are the problem. And they're a big problem worldwide.
Yeah. As soon as Islam becomes a problem in this country,
every time,
which it will,
which it has done, is, and will. Look, I think we are on the record firmly as saying all religions are problem. Like, as long as religion is a thing that is practiced by humans,
yes,
it's a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Every single time, no exceptions.
Right.
If you think that Buddhists are beyond reproach, tell that to the Rohingya, etc.
Exactly. All right, cool. So what do you got?
You and I have picked on, what's his name? Green, the Hobby Lobby guy.
Oh yeah.
Who literally bought just hundreds of thousands of stolen artifacts from the Middle East for his Bible museum and for his own personal collection.
Yeah.
A lot of which was very clearly stolen.
Right.
And a lot of which was fake.
Right.
Because the man was not checking the provenance of any of this stuff.
Well, yeah. And like as soon as people caught wind that there's this guy spending millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You're going to find
yeah.
Some stuff for him.
Look what popped up. That looks like a soda can. But it's written in cuneiform and therefore no. Well, it turns out that Christian assholes are not the only assholes who do this shit.
Oh, really?
This week finally wraps up a long-term investigation by a grand jury into one Michael Steinhardt, who is a Jewish billionaire.
Okay.
And a philanthropist, but also a guy who literally bought at least $70 million worth of stolen antiquities.
Great. 70 million?
Yeah.
Wow.
He has agreed to surrender that 70. I mean, I'm sure it's way more than $70 million worth.
That's what they know about.
That's what they know about. That's what they're insisting on him giving back. He will face no penalty for any of this, which is some bullshit.
What?
Other than, like, he's out the 70 mil that he spent.
That's a drop in the bucket.
It is a drop in the bucket for this guy. But, at least the theory is it's going to be going back to the places that it should be going back to. But, yeah.
Good. And he doesn't get any little plaques that say donated by.
No, not for this stuff. Though, I mean, this is the kind of guy. This is a guy who has an entire school at NYU named after him, I think. Wow. And he has, I think he's got like a wing of the Met is named after him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he's also
wants some little paltry little plaque on a antiquity.
Right? Yeah, exactly. This was all, I think, for his personal collection. He just wanted to own it, which is already a dick move just in and of itself.
Yeah.
The Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance had this to say, quote, "For decades, Michael Steinhardt displayed a rapacious appetite for plundered artifacts without concern for the legality of his actions, the legitimacy of the pieces he bought and sold, or the grievous cultural damage he wrought across the globe."
Wow. Well, I mean, he wanted it.
He did.
He had the money, right?
You know what? Can we talk a little bit? Yeah. I mean, billionaires are just... They're the worst. You shouldn't be allowed to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
They shouldn't exist in the universe. It is a crime against nature and humanity.
At risk of alienating our billionaire listenership.
If you're a billionaire, contact us and we'll have a dialogue. We will abandon this position for the right number.
There is a dollar amount.
There's a dollar amount for which we will abandon our position.
We'll be very nice to billionaires in the future.
But until that point, fuck billionaires.
Absolutely.
And here's how we know billionaires are bad. Donald Trump,
he's a billionaire.
Is theoretically a billionaire, and look at his hair.
Okay.
And
I hate billionaire. That's all you have to say.
And then look at this guy's hair, which from your distance, you'll think that's just a bald guy.
Uh-oh.
But there's a tiny, tiny bit of comb over happening there.
I'm more concerned about that mustache, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. The mustache is not great.
Like, how do you have that much hair on your upper lip and then so little on your top of your head?
But when you have that little on the top of your head, you can't even see until you zoom in that there is a comb over attempt happening. Why are you that? Why are you, Michael Steinhardt? Why are you?
You know, you kind of just hold on to it, don't you? Right? Like, it's hard to accept.
Listen, I am nothing but I have nothing but compassion for male pattern baldness. I am experiencing it myself.
Yeah.
That looks ridiculous, and it just proves how shitty billionaires are that he doesn't understand.
I say, Dan,
That no one around him will just be like, dude, just shave it off. You don't need
give
that.
it 10 years. You're going to have a little wisp going over the top of your head. I mean, why do you comb forward a little bit? Why not?
We're not making this about me, Frank. We're not doing that. Frank.
I'm just saying.
If any of you would like to write in and scold Frank for his treatment of his podcast partner, you can feel free to do that. The address is podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or if you'd like to side with me in calling out Dan.
How dare you? I look good. I am assured by multiple people, including my own mother, that I am a very handsome boy.
You can call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. We've got some correspondence coming right up.
Well, Frank, do you know who David Barton is?
The name sounds familiar.
David Barton is he's a pseudo historian. He is the darling historian of the crazy Christian right.
Okay, yeah.
He is a guy who has written multiple books completely rewriting American history. Starting with our so-called founding fathers and what they really believed and what they really meant when they wrote what they believed. He just blatantly lies. There's
no technique or
no context. No, I mean,
he's not a trained historian. Or if he is,
I don't know his training.
He's not very good at it.
He is definitely a non-respected historian in history circles. What he's doing is just revisionist history.
Right. So lots of picking and choosing.
and lots of just outright fabrication.
Oh, wow.
Maybe not of facts, but of
intention and
stuff. He just doesn't back any of his shit up. He just makes bold, brash claims. And then moves along. Here's the thing. There's walking a line, which is to say, there's the thing that you could do where you can reinterpret history to match up with your viewpoint. But you stay somewhat in the realm of reality. And then there's falling off the cliff into the void, and this guy must be spiraling something fierce.
Okay,
because this is what he had to say.
The greatest people killer of all has been government. Nothing has killed more people than government has killed. And so when you look at that, the Founding Fathers believed that the people should be able to have enough arms in place to be able to remind their government, you don't want to mess with us. You don't want to come after us. Well, if all we've got is pea shooters and they've got 50 caliber machine guns, that's not the point of the First Amendment, because they point out consistently, Patrick Henry and George Mason and others, that the greatest threat to your loss of guns will come from government, not from criminals or others. And so they were very adamant that you be able to have that, which is why we see in Boston, they didn't care if you have a cannon. You can have a cannon, but please don't shoot it in town or within a mile of town. It's just so loud. I mean, it wasn't the fact of having a cannon. It was just, it's a little loud just to be shooting off just for fun. So in the same way, I don't want to see my neighbor stockpile nuclear bombs. Yeah, I don't want to see it, but I don't care if he has one, because he should have the same rights. But you're saying, well, I don't think private citizens should have nuclear weapons. But if you've been trained with responsibility and morality and the concept of when and where you use them, the Founding Fathers are trained extensively in the concept of defensive warfare. You don't start anything. Now, if somebody else starts it, you can take it on, but you don't start it. I don't care if my neighbor has a nuclear weapon as long as he has that defensive concept that he will never use that unless it's being used against him.
I mean, it makes sense, right?
First of all, I think he is very wrong about his interpretation of the First Amendment.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out.
Which it doesn't say anything at all about arms at all. It's about religion and speech. But he is talking about the Second Amendment, which, look, when your interpretation of a document somehow manages to get you to the point where you think it's okay for private citizens to have a nuclear arsenal.
Unbelievable.
Because at what point do you realize you've spun out of control?
Right, because clearly the guns and weapons that are already out there amongst the people are always only ever used by responsible,
right,
owners,
yeah,
who only use them defensively, right? Like this,
they understand the concept of defensive warfare.
Your next door neighbor does.
Every single person who's ever held a gun understands this concept. It's never gone wrong. There's never been a problem.
Yeah.
I don't see why people can't get it through their thick skulls that everyone who touches a gun is responsible.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, seriously though, like if he actually got his way with this, which of course it's fucking ludicrous, but let's just say there are just nuclear weapons out in the world.
Yeah. Every third American just gets a nuke.
Bye-bye school shootings. Hello, school nukings.
Right?
I mean, it's just like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
Yeah,
what a lunatic.
The big problem with guns is that everyone knows you can't trust people to do anything safe or good. You can trust most of the people not to be insane, and not to be idiotic. Most people you can trust to do that. The laws are not there for them.
Right.
The laws exist to protect us from the nutballs.
Yeah.
Of which, in a country of 300 million, you're gonna have a few. It doesn't matter how small the percentage is.
Oh, what a ding.
You're going to have a bunch.
My God.
But, yeah.
I don't care if he... like, what the...
I mean, I don't want to see it, but I don't care if he's got it.
I mean, you might as well go see it.
I'll bet if your neighbor is a Muslim, you care. You liar.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I'll bet if your neighbor is named Muhammad, suddenly you want him not to have a nuke, is my guess.
Yeah. But see, clearly Muhammad has a nuclear weapon for nefarious purposes. It's not defensive,
right?
Clearly.
Right.
He hasn't been brought up in the right moral setting, the right moral lessons about the use of
Let me tell you
nuclear
something.
Weapons.
A guy named Muhammad in the United States is on a defensive footing. You're like, these are the guys who would provoke him into actually doing the attack. Because guess what? You don't treat him very good, David Barton.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we had some folks correspond with us. So
Yes.
I wanted to get to that. I am very excited I'm extremely excited to learn that we have a listener from a specific sect, or rather who was raised in a specific sect.
Okay.
Do you remember, Frank, when you and I went to Independence, Missouri?
Yes.
Now, our LDS listeners and beyond will know that Independence, Missouri was one of the stops along the way for the Mormons.
Right.
As a group.
Right.
In the early days. And Independence kind of became this central point where it was supposed to be a big deal. That was like where Mormonism was going to stop. It was where it was going to be.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes. Like,
and then
Joseph Smith made some crazy declarations about stuff in the area.
Yeah, exactly. Including the end of days was going to happen there. It's
the Garden
also
of Eden was nearby.
The beginning of days was there. Literally, he said the Garden of Eden was in Missouri, you guys. The other thing about Independence is that so there was another thing you'll recall where Joseph Smith said that this was the plot of land upon which God would build his great temple. Now, across the street from that is where the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints built their temple.
Yes.
They're now called the Community of Christ.
Right.
Across the street from that, like there's one intersection where it's like the Community of Christ temple, then there's a Brighamite, our Mormon, the mainstream Mormon church has a visitor center where they deny everything.
Right.
By the way, the Community of Christ people deny a lot of shit too. Like you can't get these people to agree on a history.
Right.
Joseph Smith, they totally deny that he was a polygamist and blah, blah, blah. And then across the street from that, there's another thing. Anyway.
Well, it's the Church of Christ Temple lot.
Okay.
Group.
So I will read. Yes, there's the lot that Joseph Smith said the Lord would build his temple on, that one small breakaway sect got hold of legally, and their entire sect seems to be based on just owning that lot.
Okay.
Bill writes, I grew up in an early offshoot of the Joseph Smith tree, the Church of Christ temple lot.
Really?
We have a temple lot listener. I love that.
Really?
I'm so excited about that.
Wow.
We recorded a video on that lot.
Yes, we did.
Anyway, the church that bought the land that Joseph Smith set aside in Independence for his temple and then squatted on it while the Mormons and RLDS got tired of losing lawsuits to take it away from them. All the churches would be familiar to you. No religious iconography, not even a cross. Don't applaud for special music. Laying on of hands. No hymn above the speed of a dirge. Blah, blah, blah. It's all there. Which, yes, that does describe our church growing up as well.
Yeah.
And then he quotes you, Frank, saying, people mistake, this is from last week, people mistake expertise in one area as broadly knowledgeable, which we again have ranted about this week.
Yes, okay.
He goes on to say, my mother-in-law, bless her heart, was a fan of Ben Carson. She had nothing but complimentary things to say about him. When I pointed out some of his weird-ass beliefs, pyramids storing grain is the most famous example, she insisted that he was very smart, but he was a, quote, specific kind of smart. To which I replied, a specific kind of smart suggests a generalized kind of stupid. Brilliant. By the way, last week,
That's amazing.
Ben Carson came to my mind, but I couldn't think of his name. So I was going to bring him up. So I'm glad somebody brought him up. Her response apparently was impolite, but they got over it. There you go. I am so excited that we have a temple lot listener.
That's amazing.
You guys need to understand, if you go to Independence, Missouri, within like a 5-block radius, there are
so
7 or 8 different Mormon offshoot religions. It's nutso.
Yeah.
I kind of love it.
It is kind of an amazing area.
Yeah.
For that. Oh,
anyway. We also have a little bit of audio from a listener. Let's hear what she had to say.
Happy winter. This is Alina from Fort Worth, Texas, where it is 80 degrees today. I'm a little jealous of your cold winter. I want to respond to your recent call for how we other atheists celebrate Christmas. I still enjoy the gift giving and the being in the attitude of spending time together. But obviously, without the religious aspects, first of all, it gives me pleasure to know that the Christmas tree is a pagan thing. And, so many of the Christmas traditions come from non-Christian traditions. So I always revel in that. And I usually try to get my friends together to celebrate Festivus. Now, I know it's still considered a religious holiday to some, but to me, it's just a great way to the airing of the complaints and the Festivus poll and the feats of strength. And you can watch an episode of Seinfeld, and everybody can play their favorite anti-Christmas movie. And we watch Nightmare Before Christmas. I think it's a great way to still get together and enjoy the season. Everybody brings some food that is not Christmas related and just make fun of it all.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
The Festivus thing is amazing. I love that a sitcom wrote an idea for something silly.
And people are still having Festivus.
And people are still enjoying it because there are some delightful little things that go along with it. Beware the airing of grievances, by the way. That
could go the wrong.
It could go slanch ways if you're not very careful about it. But yeah, that's great. And I also do love the embracing of all of the Christmas, basically everything about Christmas other than the Jesus bit is just pagan fun stuff. So
yeah.
Have a tree if you want to have a tree.
Why not?
Hang some garland, get some holly and some mistletoe.
Just have some fun with the whole thing.
Yeah. Put plants in your house. It's just for fun. It's also fucking celebrate Jesus. I don't care.
Probably put out a nativity
if you want to.
I mean, you could. There's some cute ones.
It's none of it's real.
Right.
The pagan stuff's not based on, there's pagan magic traditions. That's not real.
Right.
There's Jesus magic traditions. That's not real.
Yeah.
Have some fun with it.
Yeah. With all the fake phony stuff.
Yeah. Do whatever you need to do. I believe we have some folks to thank.
We do indeed, Dan. We have 2 new patrons this week. We have a new teacher by the name of Chalky Ads.
Okay, right. Wonderful.
That's great, thank you. And we have a new priest by the name of Linda.
Oh, Linda. I've said it many times, but I love it when we can bestow priesthood upon women. It is nice. It's our lovely little subversion. And now both of you, lovely people, have the magic powers that we are fit to bestow. So literally every bit of magic that we can make you have, you now have.
And it's the same level of magic that the Mormons give.
Yes, exactly.
Teenagers.
The exact same level of magic that Mormons can bestow, we also can bestow.
And what these kind folk did, if you'd like to join them, they went to thankgodimatheist.com and clicked on the support tab.
Yeah.
And it's just an ongoing way to support the show, keep us up and running.
Look, the show is free.
Yeah.
If you can,
and it's ad-free.
And it's ad-free. We've eliminated advertisements. So this is the only way that we get to keep going is if you guys give us your money. But the other nice thing that you could do is find places like iTunes to give us 5 stars.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lovely thing to do.
Absolutely.
And listen, guys, if you are in an atheist group on Facebook, if you go to atheist, Sunday school, the what do they call it? One of the atheist sort of meetup groups or whatever. Share us with them.
Absolutely.
If you would, if you like the show, if you think we're worthy of listening, please tell some other folks about it. That has a huge impact for us.
It does.
We really appreciate that.
And as always, Dan, we have our top donor to thank, our Lord and Savior, Demonium. Thanks, guys. There's more show coming right up.
Well, Frank,
Dan,
we trigger warned.
We did trigger warning
at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Because you have recently suffered a loss.
Yeah.
I mean, I've suffered this loss too, but it doesn't hit me as hard as it hits you. Which is to say,
yeah, I see what you're saying. No, 2 weeks ago, we had to put my dog down.
Yeah. Little Milo.
Little Milo, who was had turned into quite the little sweetheart.
Yeah.
Over the years. Wasn't so when we first got him.
I mean, he was always nice to me.
He was always nice to you. He didn't so much like toddlers.
No, or strangers, or people
he was prone, back in the day, he was prone to take nips, like good, solid, blood or bleeding causing nips.
Oh my goodness.
He actually broke skin a couple of times. But anyway, he grew out of that with a lot of socialization and
love and care.
Love and care and whatnot.
We're talking about a tiny little Chihuahua.
He was a Chihuahua Italian Greyhound mix.
Yeah.
Had him for 8 years.
Very cute guy.
He wound up getting bone marrow cancer, and we decided that we didn't want to put him through the kind of treatment. The vet actually said he was like, I wouldn't anesthetize him at this point, and he would have to be properly tested for what we pretty sure he has.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, it was really sad. But anyway, it brought up the topic of loss and grief and like a pet is a remarkably like emotionally important thing in so many of our lives, right?
You literally have a family member.
Yeah.
That is someone that that becomes an emotional support to you, that becomes a very important part.
Yeah.
I mean, it can. Some people don't attach to pets this way, but plenty of people do.
I honestly didn't think that I had.
Oh, interesting.
To that level.
Right.
And as we were, taking him to the vet and trying to figure out what was wrong with him, and the news started to, become much more clear that we didn't have a lot of time left with him. Like it put me into a really rough place.
Yeah.
It was really hard to face that, and to like, I thought we had, a few years left with him at a minimum. And then, so the vet, the last time we took him in, offered to put him down right then and there, because he felt that it had progressed to that point. And I wasn't at all ready for that. And this was right before Thanksgiving.
Right.
And he was like, well, and this was Tuesday, and he says, well, and it was at the end of the day. It was like one of the last appointments of the day. He's like, we're closing and we're not opening till Monday because of the holiday. So if this goes the wrong way, when it does, when he starts to slip, it's going to go really fast, and it's not going to be nice.
It's going to be,
it's going to be kind of ugly.
Yeah.
And we were like, we still can't.
Right.
Like, we're not ready. Right. But we scheduled to have a different vet. There's a service that they'll come to your home and do the euthanasia at home. So we opted to have just a couple more days with him, and then put him down. And those days were hell.
Yeah.
Like it was wonderful. And in retrospect, I'm so glad that we had that time, because he was still himself, and he wasn't fully himself, but he didn't seem to be suffering. Right.
Right.
And we had Thanksgiving, and so there was family and people who loved him, and he kind of got to have a little day. And then on Friday morning we put him down, and it's just been, and it's been rough, and it's brought up a lot of issues. And I just kind of wanted to talk about grief and and mourning, and in the context of we don't rely on some sort of idea of like doggy heaven, which everybody is so ready to talk to you about.
Oh, really?
Oh my God. Everywhere.
Oh my God.
From the pamphlet, essentially, that like the vet left, which wasn't like overtly religious. It wasn't like Jesus loves your dog type stuff. Right. But it was still like, there was some poem, like I actually just threw the thing away because it was upsetting to me, actually, because it was talking about, what was all this like emotionally manipulative stuff that some people probably respond to. I don't know. But like paw prints going off forever and like all this like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And then like last night, a friend who is not religious gave me a children's book that he meant this to be funny, and it actually is, but gave me a children's book that his sister, who's religious, gave to him after he lost a dog. And it's like all dogs, it's kind of like an all dogs go to heaven type children's book.
Right.
And it like talks about like what dogs do in heaven, and that God loves dogs, and all dogs love little children, which I loved because famously Milo did not love little children.
We know for a fact that this is just a lie.
But nonetheless, here's this children's book that somebody has bothered to write about, glossing over your feelings. You shouldn't feel bad, right? You shouldn't be sad. Your dog has moved on to a new place.
Yeah.
A better place. He's with God. He's playing with all of these children in heaven. To which I, of course, asked, where do these children in heaven come from? What's her name? Cindy Jacobs? The pink-haired lady, not Cindy Jacobs.
They come from abortions.
These are all the aborted kids playing with dogs in heaven.
Cat Kerr, that's the name we were looking for.
Thank you. And nonetheless, I don't know. I think you always have good perspective on like grief and whatnot, because some interesting things like really like there was the question of, well, what do you want to do with the remains?
Yeah.
And there's like a list of options, all of which get more expensive. And the one where you actually get your dog's ashes back is, of course, the expensive one. Expensive. It's a few $100s. Right. And
even though
the other ones are like, it's a mass cremation and the ashes are spread on a ranch in Montana. Right. That's literally what the second option was.
It goes to live in a field upstate, on a farm upstate.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's just like, but I was like, no, I must have his ashes.
Yeah.
I must have that back. And it really made me ask this question of like, why do I need to like hold on to this? Get a box back that has ashes in it,
right? Because Milo's not there.
Milo's no, he's gone.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And you and I are actually going to be talking about grief and dying at a conference at our friend Terry Daniels' conference on death, grief, and belief.
Yeah,
this summer.
Yeah,
that's a little plug for you, Terry. There you go. I think that here's the thing. There's two sides to this coin. For those of us who are raised religious. We were taught our whole lives that the religious answers are the only good answers,
right? For
dying and grief and dealing with grief. But they're wrong. The religious answers are patently wrong. They're absurd on their face. And the comfort that you get from them, the quote unquote comfort, turns out to be actually cold comfort. It's not actually, it's actually a way of just prolonging or postponing your grief or pushing it away from you rather than a way of embracing the feelings that you have right now.
Yeah.
And that's unhealthy.
Yeah.
Like the fact of the matter is you need to deal with the feelings that you're having.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. Let's just assume that all of the claims of Christianity are true, and that if it's a dog, if it's a person, whatever, you're going to see them again in the next life. It's not true, but let's assume that is true. It doesn't help you right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You're still going to be without this person or dog or loved one forever in this life.
Right.
And the longer you push that away, the harder you push that fact away, the more off balance you're putting yourself. Because you have to sit in your grief. You have to do the grieving. and grieving is work, and it sucks, and it's pain, and you just have to have it.
Yeah.
The only way out is through.
Yeah.
And if you push it away, it will come out not through your will, but against your will in ways that will be destructive. Yeah. So your options are to deal with it in a constructive way that is painful but still productive, or to be destroyed, or to be hurt by it in pieces, in fits and starts. And that's what religion does to you, is it puts you into the fits and starts place. You don't, like, I have been to Mormon funerals. The Mormon thing is don't grieve because you're going to see them again.
Yeah, it's kind of
and if you grieve, then you're denying that you're going to, the joy of them graduating to this better existence.
It's kind of bad form to cry at a Mormon funeral.
Yeah. I actually went to a Mormon funeral where a higher up, a stake president, that's basically an archbishop in Mormonism, said, literally had to explicitly give permission. It's okay to mourn and grieve. It's okay to cry here. At a fucking funeral!
Because the Mormons won't.
They think they're not supposed to.
Yeah. Because it's like you're rejecting the
narrative.
Yeah.
It's poison. It's poison. Now, on the flip side of that, one thing that religion has done correctly, one thing that we can steal from religion and do better, is ritual, or is honoring your feelings by creating something, by externalizing it in some way. And I think that's where getting back the ashes of Milo comes in.
Yeah.
You have got these feelings. We need to process it somehow. It's not just that's a beautiful way of doing that is to develop your own ritual around it.
Yeah.
And if that ritual is to have that little box and to know what it means to you.
Yeah.
And every now and then you touch it as you go by, or every now and then you stop and you just sort of notice that it's there and honor that it's there and that it meant something to you. That's huge. Yeah. That is one of these ways that we can process the grief and move on. And, if you're processing, if your ritual is, something to do with pouring ashes somewhere or going to a place that you and your loved one shared and having a moment there, like, ritual can be really helpful. And that's something that we can learn from religion. Religion, they honor the idea of ritual. They get that ritual can be useful. It's not for everybody, but for many people, ritual as a concept can be useful. But they have a prescribed ritual that's supposed to work for everybody. Well, guess what? That's not how it works.
Right.
So we have this wonderful freedom to create our own ritual, our own ideas around it, and to figure out what works for me, and especially me in relation to the person or the thing that I have lost.
That's nice.
And I love that. So,
yeah,
there you are.
Yeah.
What you did in paying the extra money and getting Milo's ashes back.
Yeah.
Is honored your feelings.
Well, yeah. And that was the thing. It was so in the moment, so important to me.
Yeah.
The other options were just shit. And other people might be like, I love the idea of his ashes, his remains being out on a ranch
with a bunch of other dogs' remains.
With a bunch of great. And that's a place where where this happens all the time. Ashes are driven up from Salt Lake City and dispersed onto this ranch.
And there's something. Here's the other thing. There's no wrong answers.
Right.
That's the great thing. That is the other freedom that we have having left religion, is that there aren't wrong answers. There's your answer.
Yeah.
And his answer may be different from your answer, and her answer. And, as long as nobody's like trying to force their answer on other people.
Yeah.
And as long as everyone's creating good space for everyone to grieve in the way that they need to grieve, then we're doing it right.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's weird because, like you hear about people, people say, oh, I lost my dog. It's always really sad, right? You're always, oh, I'm so sorry, right? But I also kind of know that like when you say that you lost a parent or a sibling or your best friend or whatever, right? To somebody who didn't know that person, right? They can immediately empathize and they get it. But when it's your pet, I just, it's a different thing, and it feels a little different, and it feels like something that you keep a little closer, right?
Yeah, I mean, not
Because
everybody understands that loss in the same way.
Exactly. And it's like, it's just been a very interesting process because I'm glad that we had the couple days to kind of get ready and to say goodbye. And we didn't leave him alone. Like he wasn't alone in any of that remaining time. We didn't both go to the grocery store. We didn't both go. We just spent time with little Milo because, I mean, like being alone was a little stressful for him anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, to a certain extent, but anyway, I just didn't want any negatives. I just wanted hangout time, and we got that, and it was good, even though I was stressed out and really worried about him. But it also feels like it's hard to, the thing that I've been struggling with, I guess, is finding the permission to be as profoundly sad as I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a little dog, right? Like it's, ugh.
And that's the thing. I think that we all need to open our hearts up to the notion that it doesn't matter what the thing is. It matters what the relationship was. If so, I lost, I've lost a goldfish in my life and didn't care at all.
Right.
But someone else might really deeply connect to their goldfish, might have an important connection there.
Yeah.
And the fact is, we all have differing experiences.
Yeah.
You know what you've brought up is a really interesting thing. Why isn't one of the questions of our society, it should be a very common question when someone says, I lost X, to say, oh, help me understand how deeply meaningful that was to you.
Yeah.
Or help me understand the depth of that for you.
Yeah.
Because I want to be there for you in the way that you need me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
It's not mean.
Right.
And if the person says, I lost my cat and I don't care, okay.
It was a little bastard.
That's fine. You didn't connect to, you had a pet.
Right.
They fulfilled whatever function they fulfilled in your life. And I'm not going to judge you for that.
Right.
But if it was an insanely important moment for you, I'm going to be here for that.
Yeah.
And let's just let everyone have the degree of depth of feeling that they have.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be big and it doesn't have to be small. It can be whatever it is, and we'll just honor it.
Yeah.
So I give you permission to grieve. I know you needed it from me specifically. I know that was what you were looking for.
Dan. No, I mean that's.
But no, out there in the world, kids, when you're out there, find ways. Because it is an act of compassion to just find ways to give that permission.
Yeah.
Rather than be like, get over it. It was just a dog.
Right.
Or anything along that scale.
Right. Well, and I mean,
you don't need to control their feelings. You can just let them have whatever the feelings are.
And there's all sorts of things that can make you sad and can disrupt your life and be difficult.
Hell, if someone's fucking Lego collection is destroyed, I don't know what
a fuck ton.
I don't know what that meant to that person. Yeah. I'll just let them deal with, them have the feelings, and I'll just be there for them.
Right.
Friends, I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of thoughts about grieving post-religion. Please send them into us. Like, really, we would love to hear it. The address is podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and tell us about it. We'd love to hear your voice, and we'd love to hear your story. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah. Listen, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist. Click the like button. It's the right thing to do.
If you'd like to join one of our members-only lounges, they're great places for support and to talk about what you need to talk about. ThankGodI'mAtheist.com/members-only is the way to get there.
Yes, indeed. Listen, thanks so much to the Red Rock Hot Club for the use of their beautiful music.
And thanks to Gordon Johnston for the use of his music.
And thanks to all of you friends for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.